You're listening to the A to Z of Human Performance live show weekdays at 13:30 GMT with Chris Lissaman and resident expert Jonna Sercombe. Please enjoy responsibly. And here he is. He's back.
I'm back in the building. Episode 17. I was sad to miss the show yesterday, Jonna. Thanks for my sound effects.
Yeah,
but I left you in the capable hands of Nathan.
I was actually honoured. I got to do the Chris Lissaman role. It was.
You did.
That's a hard job you're doing there.
Oh no, it's the easy bit. You're doing the difficult bit.
Make it look easy though, Chris.
I'm enjoying it. I've really enjoyed the show. Can't believe we're on episode 17 already.
Episode 17. Loving it.
8 to go.
It just shows though consistency, isn't it? You do something every day.
You built it up. Built it up, getting a little bit better each time. And I hope you're enjoying being part of it.
Yeah, we've got loads of listeners, loads of YouTubers.
Yeah, if you're listening in and you've missed any of our previous shows, they're all on our website, interactiveworkshops.com. And you can follow us on YouTube as well to never miss a show. We've got 5 this week with 3 of 5. We've had P, Q, we're on to R, responsibility, resilience, and the rough stuff.
Resilience.
It's a big area.
We made it.
We've made it through. Jonna, how do you define resilience?
We had a lot of debate when we wrote the book. We had a lot of debate, the difference between resilience and endurance. They're very, very closely related. Endurance is your ability to keep going in difficult situations. For me, I know Steve doesn't necessarily completely agree, but resilience is you're able to bear what you can take. Maybe resilience is how much resistance we've got to everything that comes onto us that works against us. Our ability to endure hardship or tough times, difficult relationships, to keep going, to grind out a result. Maybe that's what resilience is. Mary Holloway says resilience is knowing that you are the only one that has the power and responsibility to pick yourself up. And I've certainly seen a bit of that in the last year, our ability to pick ourselves up. I think
closely related to endurance and as well what we were talking about before on previous shows about picking yourself back up, actually owning your control over your own life and yourself.
Yeah, that ability to take ownership. But I think, we live in a fascinating age in terms of our empathy for not being able to cope, which I think is very fascinating. And it used to be that if you couldn't cope, it should be something that should be kept really private. But we have socialized the ability to share our problems and we need to share those challenges. Maybe to some extent, we've also fetishized not being able to cope as a thing that's good, to be celebrated. And I think there's a little bit of perhaps philosophical thinking to think about how we properly support people that need help without getting into a woe is me mentality. We're none of us are coping. Well, so actually, some people are coping. Yeah. So it can be that we have perhaps rightly opened the door to all our troubles and challenges. But we should, I think, still celebrate people that are able to be resilient and to bear with and to endure. And some people also to thrive in some extremely challenging circumstances.
Yeah. So we should have an understanding of what people are up against and the struggles that we might go through, and that all of us will have our setbacks, but also celebrate when people do find the strength to push through, find that resistance, find that resilience.
Yeah. And the human body, a human being needs challenge to reach a high level of performance. So I think perhaps maybe this is also perhaps causal, but perhaps part of why many people are not thriving is that we're not being challenged appropriately. It doesn't mean we're not being challenged enough, but we might be being challenged with the wrong things and not appropriately. The human being needs to be challenged to thrive. I don't know if you've got bored in lockdown, but
a little bit.
Even getting to work is to some extent a challenge, isn't it? It's a creative challenge. Sometimes you've got to deal with other people, you've got to deal with trains, you've got to deal with traffic, or you've got to you've got to physically exert yourself to get there. You might have to get out of bed. We thrive when we're challenged appropriately. And so resilience, on what like maybe active resilience, is thriving under those challenges. And then there's the other kind of resilience, which is the ability to, to stay strong when there's maybe not enough challenge.
Yeah. And we mentioned it being a bit of a flip side to planning, maybe this sort of ability to go with it when it doesn't go to plan. Is resilience essentially an ability to flex?
No, I don't think it's just about flex. I think that's one of the skill sets of being resilient, is to be able to adapt. But another skill set is to be able to persist. So, the kind of typical story of the entrepreneur persisting despite all setbacks and then breaking through. I think there is, again, there's a persistence that's needed, and that's a great part of our resilience, is to be able to persist and to keep going. But yes, that can be a weakness as well. It can be an overdone strength. It can be that we need to be able to adapt as well. And I guess Steve talks a lot about our cognitive functions, and when they perform best, to really think well, we need sleep, food, water, social contact, food, physical shelter. So to be able to make those big decisions well requires our critical faculties to be doing well. And yes, some people work really hard to have those critical faculties working well when the pressure is on.
Yeah, so it's that ability to flex is maybe just one part of that resilience, and something we can build.
Yeah, and I think that's really, really important, Chris, isn't it? Which is to think, how can I build my adaptability, my agility? Thinking of the pivot, I'm working with tens of business leaders every week who are trying to work out how to manage teams in a pandemic. So you could do that and pivot and do it on the back foot, saying, we've just got to survive. Or you could do it and say, we're going to try and find a thrive mentality through this. What do we need to do to not just succeed or get through this, but to do so and come out at the other end better than we did before? And again, I think that's where many people who are able to be resilient take this kind of learning mindset into it, and a growth mindset, and say, even if this is going to be really bad, right, what can I learn from this experience? My daughter was in the hospital with a broken arm. I mentioned it yesterday, but she enjoyed it. She was actually excited because she was learning about herself. And this is like, it might sound really perverse, but she liked going through the process of getting an X-ray and being in casualty. And she was actually,
it's an adventure.
It powered her up to be challenged in that way. She found a new side to herself. Similarly with when the pandemic struck and we had to go and work in our homes, and for us looked at our whole business. I actually got a kick of energy from it because it was an adventure, and I was interested to learn what would happen. I said to Steph, if the business burns down, it burns down. No one can predict what's going to happen in this recession. As it was, we thrived. But I had some dark moments thinking, well, that might be it. More worried about the people that work here than for myself. But also thinking, all right, so I might have to go and get a new career. Who knows? Maybe things won't work in Zoom. But turns out they do, doesn't it?
It does. It does tend to work out, and the business has done well. So we can embrace some of those setbacks, some of those challenges, because we need that level of challenge. What about those darker moments then? What kind of experiences have you had where you've really had to rely on your resilience?
Yeah, maybe we could put it into two categories. Being resilient when we're broadly in a great space, that's one thing. Being resilient when we feel low, I think, is extremely difficult. A friend of mine's just been through a really tough cancer treatment and demonstrated great resilience. At the start of it, she was in a good headspace. During the process, she stayed in a good headspace. And at the end of it, she came out of it in a good headspace. So she's been through something really challenging, but feeling resourceful during that time. But I think it's very challenging in it when we find ourselves maybe out of our depth or in a situation where we don't feel resourceful, and then we still have to endure difficult situations. And that is, of course, where the mental health comes in. The time that happened to me, I was running. I've always travelled a lot, so as a business professional, I've always been on the road. And I've built up a lot of routines about how I deal with that. So I know how I go on planes, happy with hotels. I've got my jogging. I don't go out drinking. I just go to bed, sleep, do a professional job, go to the gym. I've got my Kindle. I have a book. So when I go away for a week or two, I've got my routine. I know I'm going to be fine. I've never not been fine. I've always been fine. Even if I got sick, I've then compartmentalized that and say, okay, right, I'm ill. I've got the flu. I'm away. I've got to work. I've got to get through this. I once in India had terrible tummy trouble. It's like, right, I've still got to go and do this work. I guess I could have said I'm not going to do it, but I'm going to go in. I'm going to run it. I'm going to basically make it run in group works, so I'm not really involved. Empower the delegates, get them running it. That's my contingency plan. So I'm good at working that through. Again, getting stuck in places. I got stuck in all kinds of places. Had things go wrong at home when I was away. These kind of things. But there's one particular time I was working for a client running a huge marketing event out in Sao Paulo in Brazil, and at the same time we were going through a big growth phase in the company where I'd stretched myself there financially, emotionally, and so there was a background stress level. And then I was asked to do something which I hadn't done before, a program I hadn't run before, for a client that I hadn't worked with that much, with a new co-facilitator, not from Interactive Workshops, someone else. And they were very, very unsupportive and attacked me through the whole process. And I didn't actually sleep for a couple of nights. And in the end, I started feeling chest pains. And I'm thinking, I think I'm going to have a heart attack here. I might die. So I phoned reception, and they didn't speak English. They couldn't get me a doctor. I'm lying in my hotel room thinking, this might be it. I might never see my family again. So in that situation, I was not resourced. I also had an injury at the time, which I realised afterwards was really big. I hadn't been doing any exercise. But I wasn't in a resourceful place. I was stressed. And then extra pressure came on. And then, I guess it's a bit primeval, isn't it? You want to curl up into a ball in the back of the cave and think, I wish all this would go away. And sometimes that's where we get to in our lives, isn't it? We need our family and other people to support us. In that particular moment, I was so far away from home, Chris. I was by myself, and I had to speak to one of the clients and say, I need someone to get me sorted out, take me to a hospital, get my heart checked out. I don't want to have a heart attack and die. And they did. So I reached out for help. And I guess that's a resilient skill. But I was that was my lowest.
That was a real low.
My lowest.
That's a really
low.
challenging situation.
Yeah. And it's not even that bad, is it? It was, I ended up getting home fine, and my wife actually, again, brilliant support. She's very, very good. They'd give me some sleeping pills to help me get off to sleep. And she said, you don't need those. She just, as soon as I got home, she said, you don't need those. You can lie awake all night if you want. It doesn't matter.
It's interesting how you mentioned that you hadn't been exercising, and that could maybe trigger poor sleep, which in turn could trigger bad health, which in turn could trigger something else. And there's factors that we can actually control more or less. Sometimes there's external factors affecting our sleep or our diet or whether we can exercise. Yeah. But there's things that we can get in place to help us when we do find ourselves in that challenging environment, aren't there?
Yeah, that's it. And that's when I then actually started working with Steve. Actually, I asked him to be my coach for a period, and that's when we then went through. And that's when I actually realised I thought it was growing the business and the finance and the risk I was taking there. We could lose a lot of money. So I thought it was that, but actually when I then went back with Steve to the actual cause, it was like, do you know what? It's the exercise, which I hadn't been able to do because I'd hurt my back. That's what processes the stress chemicals, cortisol, out of our body. Yep. So pretty much the only way we can get rid of cortisol is movement. And your body will do a cortisol, he calls it a cortisol drip. But if you're under pressure, that just keeps dripping, and it removes the blood out the front of your brain, slows you down to some extent. And that's when we feel that kind of horrible stress feeling, that's cortisol. It's a hormone. And the only way we can really break it down and process it is movement and exercise. So that is a big part of being resilient, is being fit. And we were teasing Ross, weren't we, our web designer? But fitness is within nearly everyone's control. Let's make it a priority. I go for a walk every day for an hour or 45 minutes at least in this lockdown, and do some exercise as well. But we've got to, otherwise drip, 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 and then we find ourselves feeling low.
That is one thing that is currently, even with our restrictions that we're in at the moment in the UK, it is one thing we can do. We do have that freedom once a day of going out and getting that breath of fresh air, and it's up to us whether we use that. We can sit inside, and even though it's dark and wet, and just say, oh, isn't it horrible that we can't get out? But actually we haven't used that one freedom that we do get.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked a lot, didn't we, about mindset and attitude. We nearly called this book "The Power to Choose" or something like that. We have, even in the midst of lockdowns and other things, we have so many choices in this country and in the Western world. We can phone friends. We can we can eat healthy stuff. We can exercise. I don't know. Have you been reading at all during the pandemic?
I've been doing a bit. Yeah.
We can get stimulation from reading, and we can. I've just speaking to someone who started a master's. Actually, at threat of redundancy, they're someone I was coaching with, but they've started a master's. They're educating themselves. We can build networks. We can talk to people. So
it's a great chance to read a book you don't want anyone else to see that you're reading as well.
That's you can read something.
Anyone who's slightly embarrassed about.
What are you reading? Is it kids' books or penguin books or?
No, nothing like that. No, a bit of Harry Potter actually.
I mean, also we could treat this season as a time to have a bit of fallow time in our lives as well. We can. There's not the same pressures, are there, to be sociable, for example?
No.
So maybe it's a time to think about what we want in life and to invest in ourselves. But there's, as you say, there's this kind of ability to choose and act is key in terms of resilience.
Yeah, and Steve lists some of the things that you can try to get in place to help you when you do find that challenging environment or that dark moment. Exercise is one of them that we mentioned. Nutrition is another. How's your nutrition at the moment? Balanced diet?
It's my constant nemesis, Chris.
Is it?
I love a bit of dairy milk.
Oh, a bit of chocolate.
Yeah,
it's good, isn't it?
But I'm in a good place on health wise. Again, eat the right stuff. If I eat loads of sugars, it's not good for me.
No.
And it sounds silly, but it's within our power to choose. For me, it's if I get involved in the shopping, because if I get involved in the shopping, then we don't buy the stuff I don't want to eat, and then I don't eat it because it's not there. So I know that if for me nutrition, if I'm being proactive, thinking what do I want to eat, let's make sure it's in the fridge. I have a big omelette in the morning, vegetables, maybe a little bit of meat, cheese. I used to have. Oh no, this is your thing. You love cereals, don't you? I
do cereal.
I used to eat loads of cereals.
They're very sugary, but
marmalade. But then when I really looked at what it was, whether it was what I personally needed, I realised I don't need like crunchy nut cornflakes. Are probably not the thing. They're not the top of the nutritional list. They're top of the taste list, absolutely. But
ludicrously tasty.
Move on to something else. But it's not about food fads. It's like being in control and being able to flex when needed.
Yeah, exactly. You might want to throw some of these back at me, but sleep we've mentioned. Are you getting enough quality sleep?
Sleep's really, again, pandemic land, challenging, but most people in general are not good at sleep. And I think I used to have a paper and I used to have to get up at 6 o'clock every morning for my entire teenage years. And I learned then that basically if I don't get enough sleep, I'm going to be really tired every day. So I used to go to bed at 9:30, which as a teenager, people thought, what are you doing? But it made me realise you can just say, I'm going to bed. That's it. I think it's challenging then when we don't sleep. That's actually what happened to me in Sao Paulo, lying awake. Yeah. But again, Steve's very, very good on this. If we're fully tired, if we've exercised during the day, if we've eaten the right stuff, if we've had mental, social stimulation, if we've
earning your sleep, really, aren't you?
Had the right kind of wind down. I'm sure Emma Wiggs sleeps. You know why? It's because she's like working out, really intensely.
It's like building up an appetite for sleep.
Yeah. But our kind of, I think, we earn good sleep as well. And I think, again, thinking about what we do in our evenings is very big to me. So I'm probably watching too much TV in the pandemic, but watching TV is incredibly close to sleeping, Chris. So it's no wonder if we watch 3 or 4 hours of TV in the evening, sat there almost, if you look at our heart rhythm, I don't know if you've got Apple Watch, look at your heartbeat. It's like it's going down to as if you're asleep. No wonder then if we get to bed, we're not that tired. So looking at how we structure our life is really, it can drive our sleep. And Emma also said something really helpful, which is that she can still do her best Olympic performance not having slept the night before that well. And I think, again, some of us, we become stressed that we're not sleeping. So that was really helpful what she said to me. So when I'm flying around, if I'm jet lagged or something, she said, effectively your performance can be the same as long as you in general get enough sleep. One bad night's sleep won't make your performance drop off too much. obviously, you know, those of us who have kids and things, when you end up not having enough sleep for days and days on end, it's not good. But yeah, and then Steve's research shows that also he's into the power of napping. A 20-minute nap will process out a lot of the stress chemicals in your brain. And actually, so yeah, I never used to nap until I met Steve, and then I realised he's actually right. I can remember actually after a very big training in Madrid, I just lay down on the concrete floor near where the taxis come in. I was extremely tired, had a 20-minute power nap, and felt amazing afterwards. So yeah,
it can be really powerful, can't it?
Sleeping's big. What else is on Steve's list?
Social support, as we mentioned as well. Yeah, difficult in lockdown, a different dynamic. But as you've said, you can pick up the phone, you can Zoom, we can sort of get face to face. Have you got at least one person with whom you can have a nice conversation? Is Steve's question to ask ourselves.
Have you, Chris?
I do, yeah.
Who's that?
I believe you are one of those people.
Oh, I'd love to be there. Yeah, I think we could do that together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do have those people that I can call on in those dark moments.
Yeah. And I also think one of the responsibilities in building resilience is to extend ourselves to others and to make those offers. We could also think, you know, when we're building relationships at work, for example, are we going to build ones that are going to last? Are we proactively and intentionally going deeper in our relationships so that when the pressure's on, they have got our back and we've got theirs? Yeah. Or are we kind of just trying to impress people and skirting through, thinking about ourselves?
Yeah. That really struck me in the first lockdown, actually, that who our colleagues are is largely outside our control. As things change in the world and things change in business and you change in your career, but our level of relationship with them, our friendships and the time we invest, and whether those last beyond your time in that job, is pretty much entirely up to you.
Yeah, that's interesting.
How those relationships work.
Yeah, and I guess you've got to think about what kind of person you want to be. I guess within me is a feeling of purpose, that if I can build really supportive relationships, that's a help to other people. I don't know, this is perhaps a bit private, but we have a lot of people over to our house, Chris, and it just goes on and on and on. It's endless. You know, people coming over to come and bring their kids to have a run around. Not at the moment, obviously, but normally. Yeah. Endless people. But yeah, we're happy. Steph and I like to be there to support people, and we like to connect with people. Yeah. And when things are difficult, like Annabelle's got tons of these cards downstairs saying, "Sorry, you broke your arm." Yeah, people care, and it's not supposed to be transactional, but I guess it's incumbent on us, each of us, to think about building the best support networks we can, knowing that we'll all face challenges, and if we've put in the hard yards, a lot of people might be there for us, which would be great.
Absolutely, it can be really, really powerful. You mentioned purpose as well, as we've covered on these sessions. Positive attitude we've picked up on, and shares that we can think about before, during, and after. So what do I need to do to prepare me before? What do I need to do to maintain my performance levels, which is during? And what do I need to do to relax or decompress afterwards? Yeah, as you said, maybe it's that power nap.
Yeah, maybe it is. And also to think about, one of the other things about resilience is, what rewards am I going to give myself? And again, if we're in the kind of life where we're just grinding everything out and there's not any positive rewards, and that doesn't have to be a material reward or a food reward. When I was trying to get healthy a few years ago, I realised I used to reward myself with a Mars bar and a massive lunch because I went for a small jog. And then I realised I should try and find a reward that helped move me towards my goal. And it sounds really cheesy, but I realised I should just reward myself with a smile at the end of each run. And I actually used to stop at the end of the run and go, "Well done, Jonna. You've done a good job there. You got out there. You've done it." But I think actually on the kind of company side, I do make sure at the end of the year I reward myself. This year I got myself a new shiny bicycle. Maybe that's mammal, middle-aged man in lycra. But I realised, you know what, I actually need to have it. It's almost like I need to reward myself at the end of the year and say, "Hard work, well done, enjoy this." And I said to the board, I said, "I've got to reward myself somehow. What should I do?" Because I needed that feeling that I've actually, you know, it's got almost drawn a line and said, "That's been done. Good job, son. Off we go next year. Or here we come."
Yeah, you can, if you're taking full ownership of what you're doing, you can kind of create your own micro rewards and your own structure of self-reward. I mean, I used to do it in a job where I didn't have many colleagues around in an office, and it made me get my head down quite a lot. And so what I do is I block in into my calendar just a "what do I need" question, so that would pop up on my screen and just ask me what I need. And it was completely open. It wasn't.
Was it
It could be anything. It could be going and getting a brownie or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or is it just going for a walk? Just I need 10 minutes. Or is it? Oh, there's someone I've really been meaning to call. Not even to do with work, but just I need to do that.
You programatize it. It's actually another good habit to do, isn't it? To pick up a phone, someone that you haven't phoned for ages.
Yeah.
If you have that as a habit, you will just keep in touch with loads and loads of different people. I was going to say something I was going to share something similar to your rewards, but when I was a student, I basically diarised my entire final year to 2 sessions in the morning, 2 sessions in the afternoon, nothing in the evening, and decided to only work 3 of the 4 sessions. And there was a reward. That was a reward. The reward was if I can diligently do this over the whole year, then I get 1 session off per day. Anytime I miss a session, I have to schedule it into a day where I already have 3 sessions now, so I have to work 4 sessions. And so that, like, my intrinsic motivation was really high, because as long as I did 3 sessions a day, I didn't have to do 4 sessions any day. As soon as I started ducking out, I'd have to do 4 sessions. So I'd set up a system where I didn't, if I applied myself, I would have a session off.
Yeah,
it's good.
It's really helpful. And just before we finish, where have you seen resilience in the business world, in the people you've worked with, clients, friends? Where have you seen resilience matter in business?
I'd like to say that we're all fragile. That's one key thing. The top sports performers, many of them have mental health problems, battles. The top business people, many of them have mental health battles. We are all fragile. So I guess there's 2 types, isn't there? There's those that are able to deal with real difficulty, and it never seems to mentally or emotionally affect them. I know some people like that. They, as we've spoken, probably work on all of those things that are in the book to put themselves in a high performance slot. But I can't say they don't have the battles, because they're only that I don't know about them, right? And then I think there's those who struggle through real difficulty, and both I find really inspiring. One of my friends runs a £100 million turnover company and opened up about some of his mental health struggles recently. And you just think, wow, that's really valuable to everybody to put that out there. But yeah, I think we all have this precious energy within us, and to guard it as much as we can, but to acknowledge that no one's invulnerable or superhuman. And I guess it's that what I found was when you put yourself in a situation where you've got systemic pressures that are bigger than you, then you ultimately will fail. And so there's a bit of wisdom required as well to know systemically what is possible for one person to manage or achieve, and what has to be a shared load. And I know another thing I addressed when I had my stress-related episode was mentally, I believed at that point that I could carry everyone else's responsibilities. So I would say to my team members, I've got this, I can carry this. Work here and we will be successful, because I can take your pressure and I will hold it if you can't. And I had to come back to them and say, I'm really sorry, I've been wrong about that. I need to share all of this responsibility across you. If I'm lying awake at night, I want you to lie awake at night. If I'm feeling the pressure, I want you to feel the pressure. Whereas before, I'd set up a system where I'll take the pressure, you guys just go and have fun. And in the end, actually, do you know what? You can't build a sustainable organisation where everyone doesn't feel responsible. Yeah,
it's a really important point, and it helps us to think about how we're guarding our own things we care about. Actually, gatekeep. Yeah,
gatekeep. Yeah, it's a great expression, Chris. Yeah. I mean, with energy, with time, again, finances. If we've got something that's burning a massive hole in our pocket, draining our finances, it's going to undermine our resilience and make us more vulnerable.
Well, I hope our listeners have been able to take away at least one thing. Maybe it's sleep, maybe it's diet, maybe it's exercise, but one thing that's going to help them grow their resilience. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all tomorrow.
Yeah, it's going to be a great show tomorrow.
Thanks for joining us to start, Jonna.
Take care all. Bye-bye.